Okay, welcome back to my channel. Well, we're going to continue my trip down memory lane because I've got quite a special publication in my hand that I'm quite excited that I found, and I've kept it all these years. It is, in fact, my Princess High School 1985 yearbook. Now, this was obviously not my matriculation year, the year before when I was in Standard 9, but there's a lot of pictures of people I went to school with and a lot of people that I wrote about in my book. So we're going to trawl through it together, maybe not just in one video because there is quite a lot to go through in it, but just go down that memory lane and look at some of the people and some of the things they wrote in there as well. Okay, so I haven't rehearsed going through this at all. We're going to walk through this together and I'm going to see if I can remember the people, the pictures that we look at and what was going on. So this is the yearbook. As you can see, it's looking a little bit tattered, but not bad for 40 years. We've got Princess High School 1985. This was the third edition, apparently. And then we can see just at the top here, school emblem and the motto Ad Astra, which I think might have meant aim high. I can't remember. And then down the bottom it says, it's better to build children than repair men. Quick look at the back cover, because it's quite relevant. It's an advert for C&A, the stationery store. Which I used to work at in one of the malls, also written about in my book. Yeah, so I worked there for about a year, I think it was. So let's open up and see what surprises are in store. And as I say, we won't do it all in one session. Big advert on the first page for Yearbook Beperk. Trying to remember my Afrikaans. What is that? Is that a library of Beperk? Something like that? Boekwinkels Beperk? Quite possibly. Put me right in the comments if I'm wrong. And then we've got the magazine of Princess High School 1985. We've got the various people involved here. A couple which I remember, especially the scribes. I think that's Jackie Hewer and Bronwyn Keene-young. Both were in my class. I can't remember if it was in both 9 and 10. I think it was. The others are teachers. There's a bit of an editorial there. Let's switch over to the next page. All right, we start to get some things written by pupils now. And there's one from Bronwyn Keene-young, from the pen of a pupil. Just an introduction to the magazine. I remember Bronwyn quite well. If I remember right, I think she had a motorbike, which surprised us quite a lot. And then there's an open letter to a teacher here. That's written by Karen McEwen. She was also in my class. Very nice girl, as I remember. If I remember right, she came from Zimbabwe. That's it. She'd come to South Africa from Zimbabwe, as a lot of new South Africans did. A lot going on in Zimbabwe at that time. Then we've got the Mr. Stradham, the headmaster, and his message in the book. If you've read my book, you'll notice there were a lot of headmasters at schools I went to that I didn't particularly care for. Mr. Stradham was slightly different. I think he was a very fair headmaster, as I remember. He enjoyed engaging with the pupils. He was very active with the pupils. I seem to remember he was a good headmaster, definitely. Some more adverts. Well, I suppose something's got to pay for the magazine, hasn't it? Fantastic rice and appliance repairs. Message from the governing body. Message from the chairman of the PTA. All the stuff which we'll skip over, and we'll have a look at the first photograph here, because there's a few people I recognise. The executive team. So there's Mr. Stradham in the mid there. Now, I remember him, Van der Merwe. He was very strict. Him and this Mr. Van der Merwe up here, who was, I believe, a PE teacher. when the boys were doing their sort of marching drill and getting hair inspections and uniform inspections on the field in the morning, which usually happened, I think, about once a week. Basically, we all had to go through marching drills, preparing us for life, learning, to respect authority. We would have, a full hair and uniform inspection. And if anything wasn't up to code, it was usually these two guys who were dishing out the cane to, make you see you're wrong and make sure you put it right. This guy here is Mr. Webb. He was my geography teacher in Standard 9, and he wasn't a bad teacher. Not a bad teacher as I remember. He was quite fun in the way he conducted his class. Very easygoing, laid back. But put a foot wrong and you'd still get the end of his stick. This guy here, this little guy, is Mr. Derrick. He was my science teacher, both physics and chemistry. Very nice man, very timid, but very nice man. Always had time for you, especially if you wanted to ask questions of him. And me and my mate Stephen often did, because Stephen was particularly hot on trying to look for alternative fuels for his motorbike. And so a physics and chemistry teacher came very handy to ask questions. But Mr. Derrick's classes were quite entertaining. Then we've got the staff pictures, details of all the staff. I'm not going to go into all this, but there's a few guys here I remember, especially, is it Wilson? I can't remember his name. Wilson. He was sort of the head sort of guy in charge of dealing with the school infrastructure and the grounds and that. Then there's staff news, and there's a lot of people in this photograph. All the teachers. This teacher here, I can't remember her name, but she was my tutor teacher in Standard 9. So the first day at the new school in Standard 9, it was her class I was in. I'm trying to see who else I can spot. This guy taught me geography as well, I believe. That there, if you've read my book, is Mrs. Ferreira, the lady who talked me into taking Esme Jackson to the matric farewell. Something that I'm glad she did. We might come across a few of the other teachers in our travels through the book, but back in 1985, cameras were not of the best quality, and as you can see, it's very, very difficult to make out certain people. Some of the pictures are really bad. Interestingly enough, my brother features in this yearbook, and we'll come across him in a little while, but we're just going to shoot forward pictures for the academic prize groups. I'm going to see if I can spot anybody in here. I'm just going to get my glasses. Because being 55 years old, the old eyes are not as good as they used to be, and I need a little help sometimes just to make people's faces out. So do I recognise anybody here from my class who are doing well? I would imagine Bronwyn Keene-Young. Yes, she had to be in there because she was involved in everything, all that, extracurricular activities and very high marks in everything. Then you've got all the details of who won what certificate-wise. We won't go into that. There's more interesting things ahead. More academic certificates. As I remember, it was a very well-performing school. I think it had some prestige attached to it. Everyone seemed to excel there. Trophies, 100% attendance. I was definitely not in this list. I don't recognise anybody on there, but these two guys here, in 1985. Had 12 years full attendance. More adverts. The Pen Den and Drake College for when you've left school. Now we come to a bit more interesting part, because these are pictures from the actual class I was in, and these I believe were taken in Mrs. Ferreira's class, and she was our English teacher, English literature, English language, all those sort of things. And there's a few people I can spot at the top here. Hiding behind that piece of paper there, you can just see her hair there. I know who that is. That is Janine Minar. That's the girl who used to sit next to me in Mr. Derrick's science class, who flirted with me all year, who occasionally, just to get a loud reaction from me, would unannounced stab me in my left leg with a compass. Yes, Janine, I've not forgotten that. And of course, I would shriek, and Mr. Derrick would then have to intervene and go, "What's going on with you two at the back?" But yes, I asked her out to the matric farewell, and it all was looking rosy. And unfortunately, she let me down as she wanted to go with an ex-boyfriend. So I was left having to look for someone else. But fortunately, Mrs. Ferreira intervened and sorted everything out. Some guys in my class, right? These guys I do remember. Names escape me, but this guy I do remember especially. That is Marcus Boak. I believe he was of German descent. And he is the guy who blew his eyebrows and most of his face off by trying to clean his exhaust pipe off of his motorbike with methylated spirits. You'll probably remember, if you've read the book, that my brother and I had a similar incident using white spirit, which all went horribly wrong. But it went especially horribly wrong for Marcus, who singed his whole face. And I can remember him having red blisters all over his face and most of his eyebrows and the top of his hair gone for some time, covered in some sort of gel to help the healing process. Poor bugger. Some more guys here. Right, so then we've got people sitting outside. I can't see myself in any of these photographs, but just in the middle here we see Mrs. Ferreira. She was quite a small lady, but very, very strict indeed, but very fair as well. And then on the right here, if we just move over to the right here, I can see another mischievous face here, and this time she hasn't got a piece of paper in front of her face. That's Janine Minar again. She obviously spotted the camera and decided to put on a pose while the others all kept their heads down. I do recognise this guy. I can't remember his name, but he used to play the drums, and another guy in the class and him used to talk about their drum training. Look at that face. Look at that naughty face. I loved her to bits, but she was a nightmare. Not recognising any of these, but this lot I do. This girl, I think she had a motorbike as well. Can't remember. This girl, this is Esme Jackson. This is who I took to the matric farewell, and we had a lovely evening. And to the right here, we've got Louise Vust, and I wrote about her in my book as well, I believe. She had a Yamaha road bike and would pretty much in her skirt get her knee down. She was quite a fast rider on her bike. Very, very good motorcyclist. And this girl was Portuguese. Very nice girl. Lovely to look at. That's Audrey Sequeira. She was in my class as well. So this definitely looks like our English class. Definitely does. Oh, that's taking me back, that is. They haven't changed, though. They all look the same in my head. Prefix, we won't bother looking at that. Or can you identify the prefix? Then we've got the head girl and the head boy when we were in Standard 9. Now, something I do remember about this year, because it was my first year, Standard 9, at Princess High School, and one thing that stands up in my mind was the Standard 6s, as they joined the school, had to go through a year's worth of initiation. And this was thought up by, I would imagine, these two and the prefects and heads of years or whatever. And they made them make an art and craft dog on a lead that they had to tow behind them for the entire year whilst going to different classes. So, this involved things like empty toilet roll holders, shoe boxes, wool, string, anything else they could do to design their dog. But basically every single poor kid had to make a dog and then drag this dog round. Not that they had enough books in their book bag to carry round, but also this dog, which, of course, over the course of a year, bits would fall off and they would be tattered and torn, but they still had to do it. Very strange thing to have to make them do. I'm glad I didn't have to go through anything like that. Okay, so this is the matric farewell, but this is the one before, the year before mine. And I think it was tradition that the Standard 9s, or some of the Standard 9s, would volunteer to put on the matric farewell for the Standard 10s. And this was October the 4th that year. We got some teachers complaining about the catering facilities. I can't remember that teacher's name, but he's got a hot dog and he doesn't look too pleased about it. These are some guys from my class who are helping out, shuffling drinks around for the various parties. And we got a few select photos of some people and their partners in a setting they used to put up. And this is a photo I don't have of me and Esme that I'm going to see if I can locate, because I never got to see it because unfortunately I came back to England before the publication and before the end of the year. So I never got to see our photograph, and it would be nice to. And if I remember right, we were both seated and it was on a bench in our photographs, the scene. So you can see here a lot of people, looks like it might have been a jungle theme or something that year, but some girls who have spent a lot of money on their dresses, and some guys looking dapper in their tuxes. What we got now? More adverts. Lots and lots of adverts. And then we move up to focusing on the field. So this is all the sports bits and pieces. I'm just going to skim through this. We'll see if we can see anybody. Now, rugby. I didn't play in any teams or anything like that. I did have a go playing rugby, but not really my cup of tea. A lot of rugby teams there going on there. We've got Building Society advert now. More rugby and more rugby. Looks like Mr. Derrick was involved in the rugby along with Mr. Van der Merwe, because they're on both those photographs. I'm going to try and... What was her name? Looks like Mrs. Kruger. Yeah, so she was my class tutor, sort of, registration class tutor in Standard 9. And when we started the year, if I remember right, it wasn't very long until it was Valentine's Day. And even though I just started at the school, she asked everyone in the class to... you could purchase a gift for a Valentine, card, chocolates, heart, whatever. There were various things. But you had to go through her in order to do it. It wasn't acceptable that you wanted to do this on your own. It was all administered by Mrs. Kruger. So she could get the lowdown on who fancied who. And I was new to the school, hadn't been there long, but I was asked, you've got to think of somebody. You've got to send something. So if you could, who would you like to send something to? So in the end, I just chose Bronwyn Keene-Young because, she stood out and I thought she was nice. She had lovely blonde hair. So Mrs. Kruger dealt with the admin around that. Then it looks like we've got some hockey and that going on. I recognise this lady. She ruled with an iron rod as well. What was her name? Mrs. Bronkhorst. No, don't recognise any more here. Mrs. Bronkhorst again with more netball. And cross country. Once again, not good for me. I was having the occasional cigarette back then, so running was not my forte. And here we go. And I do have to point out there's a mistake here. This wasn't Interbont Netball 1985 featuring my brother, Christopher Williams here. It was, in fact, high jump he did. He was very good at high jump with this girl, and he was doing, inter-school high jump competitions and was doing really good at it. And he actually, I think he got chosen for the private school that he went to, whose name escapes me because of his high jump activities. Cross country, athletics, Rudaport Metal Exchange. Then we've got cricket. Once again, not for me. Way too hot in Africa to stand in a field and just stand for hours doing nothing. More cricket, tennis. Are we at the middle of this page so we can have a break yet? No. Right. Quick save. Member of the Spa Group. Now, as if you read my book, you remember I worked for the Spa hypermarket in Wilracrans. And, all these guys owned all of that. And all of them that were around the Krugersdorp and Rudaport area. Willie's Service Centre if you need a new exhaust or tyres for your car. Nobody stands out on here, apart from the teacher, Mrs. Schnell. She was German, so when we were in her class, which I believe, that's right, biology, she taught us biology. When we were in her class, she would take note of the, I think we had three lads, one Oliver, my mate, of course, who's from Austria, who could speak German, and she would talk to them in German, and they would talk back to her in German. But I saw this woman make 18-year-old men cry after hitting them with a plank of wood. She had a mean swing on her. I tell you, once you saw it and you saw the boys' faces after, you didn't want to be on the end of it. And I think, fortunately, I never got to be on the end of it. But she had some power in those arms, I tell you. Okay, we're in the centre of the book now, and it's all about, along the pavements, the big walk. This was a day off the school had in order to do a charity walk all around sort of Krugersdorp area, Rudaport area. No, actually, it wasn't Krugersdorp. It was just Rudaport. And it was quite a fun day, but we're going to take a break there and we'll look at the rest of the book in another video. So I hope you've enjoyed going through that with me and just seeing some of the faces that I spoke about in the book and some of the memories. And we'll have a look at the rest next time.